Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday evening devotional. This is Mike McDaniel, the evangelist of the Central Church of Christ in Caruthersville, Missouri. Glad that you are watching today. I want to speak today on doing much with little. In 1 Corinthians 15:58, therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. For as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Christians are the Lord's servants. The word servant implies service. It implies a work that must be done. Above everything, we should be of value in the service of the Lord. There are some who are waiting until they get rich to do great things for the Lord. Others feel that their abilities are so small that the Lord does not need them. We understand from the parable of the talents that it's okay to have small ability, Matthew 25:15. But it is not okay to use our small ability as an excuse for doing nothing. Jesus told the one-talent man, thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Matthew 25:26 and 27. We often fail to realize that God expects us to use what we have right now. We fail to see just how much can be accomplished by using what we have. We need to be awakened to the fact that nothing we do is too little when it is our best effort for the cause of Christ and His church. It matters not so much what a person may have, but what he does with what he has. There are a number of examples in the Bible of people being required to use what they had for the Lord. And in many cases, the things that they had seemed weak, out of place, and unsuited for the task to be done. And yet when they used these things for the Lord, they became great instruments of service. Let's gain encouragement from studying these examples to use the talents that we have in scriptural ways for the Lord and for His church. Now, in the first place, we think about Moses. God appeared to Moses to send him back to Egypt and free his people from bondage. Egypt was a great nation with powerful armies. But God said unto Moses in Exodus 4:2, what is that in thine hand? He said, a rod. And this was just an ordinary rod. But God said to Moses in Exodus 4:17, thou shalt take this rod in thine hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs. Now here's an 80-year-old shepherd with one little rod against the greatest nation on earth to take away from that nation about 2 million of its slaves. From man's point of view, it could not be done. But by using what he had according to the Lord's directions and with the Lord's help, he did deliver the Jews from bondage. No, God is not working miracles through our hands today, but that is no proof that God cannot do great things through us. There are plenty of people who would be glad to be used by the Lord to perform miracles, but the idea of accomplishing much with little does not appeal to them. There are other illustrations of this same principle. Second, think of the judge named Shamgar. Shamgar saved Israel on one occasion with no greater equipment than Moses had. In Judges 3:31, and after him was Shamgar the son of Anath, which slew of the Philistines 600 men with an ox goad. he also delivered Israel. Shamgar, what is in thine hand? Just an ox goad. Shamgar could have chosen to hide from these Philistines. He could have thought, well, if all I have got to fight with is this ox goad, I might as well go home. Or that he was too much in the minority. Or that it was not the proper time. Or that it would just be too foolish to attack all these men alone. But fortunately for Israel, Shamgar did not make excuses like most of us. Using little for the Lord, he was able to accomplish much. Third, think of the boy named David. David had a sling and 5 stones with which to meet the giant of Gath, Goliath, who was dressed in his mighty armor. Why did David take 5 stones? Was that a lack of faith on his part? Well, it may very well have been more than just a coincidence that Goliath had 4 sons, according to 2 Samuel 21:22. Perhaps David thought he might have to do battle with not only Goliath, but the 4 sons as well. At any rate, David used what he had and what he had tested against the beasts of the field as a shepherd. He said to Goliath in 1 Samuel 17:45-47, Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saved not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. What tremendous faith he had, and how weak ours often is. If we are willing to use what we have in the name of the Lord, whether it is little or much, God will be glorified. Fourth, consider the poor widow of Luke 21. What is that in thine hand, poor widow? Only 2 mites, hardly enough to be counted. She could have easily have said, what is this in comparison to all that the others are giving? Well, my 2 mites should never be noticed or missed. Oh, if she had so reasoned, what a grave mistake she would have made. And yet people in the Lord's church rationalize that way today, because I'm unable to give a large amount, a sizable amount, I'll just not give anything at all. That amounts to a failure to realize that little is much when God is in it. And we need souls like this good widow who gave in proportion to her ability and secured to herself a greater blessing at the hand of God at a notable place in God's book. She did not spend her time worrying about what she didn't have, but rather she utilized what she had to the glory and honor of God. Fifth, think about Mary. In John 12:1-3, Jesus was at a supper in Bethany. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. Mary, what do you have in your hand? She had some ointment to anoint the Lord, and to some it was an inappropriate act. But note that she did what she could with what she had. And Jesus said of her in Mark 14:8, she hath done what she could. She has come beforehand to anoint my body to the burying. It was seemingly a small act, but one that gained favor with our Lord. and is even now, 2,000 years after the fact, being told of even as Jesus prophesied. Jesus said in Matthew 26:13, "Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman hath done be told for a memorial of her." 6, think of Dorcas. In Acts chapter 9, and let me turn there for just a moment. Now, Acts 9, and I want to read from verses 36 through 39. In Acts 9:36, now there was at Joppa a certain disciple named Tabitha, which by interpretation is called Dorcas. This woman was full of good words and alms deeds which she did. And it came to pass in those days that she was sick and died, whom when they had washed, they laid her in an upper chamber. And forasmuch as Lydia was nigh to Joppa, and the disciples had heard that Peter was there, they sent unto him 2 men, desiring him that he would not delay to come to them. Then Peter arose and went with them. When he was come, they brought him into the upper chamber, and all the widows stood by him, weeping, and showing him the coats and the garments which Dorcas made while she was with them. I'll stop there with the reading, but busy Dorcas, what do you have in your hand? Just a needle. Just a needle. Well, surely she couldn't do anything worthwhile for the Lord, and yet she was willing to use what she had for the Lord. When her body lay cold in death, there were many widows who gave loving testimony of how much she had done with so little. After becoming servants of Christ by obeying the gospel, we then must bring what we have to the Lord and use it in scriptural ways in His service. God created all of us, young and old, weak and strong, with talents, abilities, and opportunities to use them for His glory. If we'll do this, we'll grow as Christians, and others might be saved by our good influence upon them. Thank you for watching our Wednesday evening devotional for today. Till next time, this is Mike McDaniel with the Central Church of Christ in Caruthersville, Missouri. Have a good day.